Social anxiety, that excessive fear of what others might think of us. And it is true that for a small number of people, social anxiety is experienced as panic attacks and serious distress that can significantly interfere with someone's ability to go about their everyday, normal life. The bigger, more compelling truth for the majority of us is that social anxiety disorder is just a limiting and unnecessary label. It's not a stable attribute of your personality, and that anxiety you experience is only your internal response. A natural experience of fear that would be completely rational if the danger was real, and not just a pattern response you have adopted to avoid those anxious thoughts and those feelings in the body you've experienced in certain situations in the past. The problem is not that we experience anxiety. It's the magic of life that we miss out on when we allow fear to consume us in a way that is disproportionate to the threat. So most of us don't have social anxiety or even social phobia. We just allow that natural fear response to hijack our rational thinking, and we get stuck in this place where we aren't able to effectively discriminate between what is a real concern and what is only probable. And I wonder if you are just like me and get stuck in your head many times throughout each day, on the edge of joining that little hamster for a brisk run on the wheel of anxiety, simply because our brain and body is doing what it does best and simply giving us a heads up about the things that we are likely to confront throughout the day anyway. But what if I told you you can choose not to suffer from social anxiety? And there is just an experiential gap between your current experience and who you would like to be. I'm Matt, and I'm here to tell you that you can bridge that gap. So keep watching and learn how to drop that silly label, and stay with me as you learn the techniques that will empower you to consciously stop yourself in those moments of social anxiety and change your thoughts and behaviors for the better. At Self-Health Hypnosis, we guide you to help yourself. So take this moment for yourself and let's learn something amazing together.
Self-Health Hypnosis.
Hang in there, because we're going to start with something a little technical, but also very important. The latest diagnostic and statistical manual of the American Psychiatric Association, more commonly known as the DSM-5, defines social anxiety as follows. A persistent fear of one or more social situations in which a person finds themselves exposed to people they're unfamiliar with, or to the possible scrutiny of others. B, anxiety invariably results in panic attacks. C, the person recognizes that the fear is unreasonable or excessive. D, the feared situations are avoided or else endured with intense anxiety and distress. E, the avoidance, the anxious anticipation or the distress of the feared social or performance situation interferes significantly with someone's normal everyday functioning, such as going to work or school or experiencing normal relationships. F, the fear, anxiety, and avoidance is persistent, typically lasting for 6 months or more. And finally, and importantly, G, that fear and anxiety is not due to the abuse of substances or due to other mental illnesses. As a strategic psychotherapist, it's always going to be a challenge when people come to us identifying with a label or when they're already attached to a diagnosis. And with all the opinions and ideas available on the internet, and the difficulty for people that are socially anxious to reach out to others, people may have even turned to Dr. Google to diagnose themselves. For this reason, the DSM-5 definition is important. in that it defines clearly that social anxiety should not be confused with normal everyday shyness or awkwardness, due to the real impacts of constant panic attacks and the scope by which social anxiety or social phobia can interfere with normal everyday activities such as going to work, school, going to the shops, getting a haircut, or even speaking on the phone. So the short of it is, if you consider yourself introverted, or perhaps even overly shy, or even experience crippling fear of judgment in certain situations, this does not mean you suffer from social anxiety disorder. And the problem here is that attributing this condition to yourself only gives yourself an excuse to avoid these social situations further, and to not even try and make that effort to change or to learn the skills and eventually adopt the habits that can lead to you getting more out of life. And I wonder if you have considered if those thoughts you are having and those emotional and physical responses are just a natural response of every healthy human being. And that for the majority of us, those anxious feelings we experience in certain social situations are more about a lack of self-awareness, experience, or skills. The tools we could use to press the pause button, allowing us a mere second to decide if the messages of danger our brain is presenting to us for our consideration are excessive or unreasonable. And if you have experienced social anxiety, then you probably already know that the fears that consume us in essence aren't really triggered by the presence of other people. And if we are truly honest with ourselves, we don't really dread the idea that we are in another person's thoughts. And I appreciate there are some people dealing with serious phobias. However, many of us notice fears and anxieties in certain social situations that we don't notice when we are around family, friends, with certain groups, or even out in public at events. Instead, what we do fear, and usually exaggerate, is our perceptions of how others might judge us if we give them the chance. By being in their presence, by calling attention to ourselves, or doing something that might remind them of us. And let's be real, it is absolutely normal that we form perceptions and opinions of others that reflect the quality of our interactions and the impact of our behaviour. And perhaps some people may disagree, but I would like to think that a majority of us are very aware of our flaws. And there is a part of us that wants to do better. And in our own very human and imperfect way, we are all seeking to develop self-awareness that will help us reflect more clearly on our interactions. And I'd like to think that the fact that as human beings we can take responsibility for our decisions and the impact that our behaviours have is foundational to living in an open society where we can have the freedom to think and discuss cause and effect, and together establish agreed standards for what we believe represents civilized society. And I wonder, isn't this the essence of useful relationships, empowering friendships, and even love? What concerns me as a trained clinician and human is that it's clear from studies that more of us, at least in the Western world, are reporting an experience of anxiety and depression. And maybe like me, you have started to observe just how often in the media, in advertising, or even in the workplace, we are being continually prompted to consider if we are suffering from anxiety or depression. And let's be clear here, these are very real and crippling issues. And the whole reason Ash and I spend time creating content on this channel that will guide those seeking solutions to make the changes they need. And if you have been experiencing social fears persistently over a period of time, And if nearly every social situation provokes in you an overwhelming sense of anxiety, it is critical that you consult your doctor or a mental health professional. They will be able to advise on a treatment plan that will help you get back in control so that you can learn the skills and create the change necessary to live the life that you want. The truth is, there are so many factors influencing mental health. Yet part of me wonders if social anxiety is just largely overstated. And what if those anxious feelings we experience are just our internal response to what is known in social psychology as the spotlight effect? And the spotlight effect describes our tendency as humans to believe that other people notice and focus on us more than they actually do. And it is clear that our brains have evolved over millions of years to have a strong bias in favour of staying physically alive, and have adapted to respond to a natural world where danger signals take priority over high-level conscious thinking. And as a result, the pathways that exist between our amygdala and our prefrontal cortex means that our fear mechanisms have a half-second jump on conscious reasoning. And for us who live in the modern world, this isn't exactly helpful. The problem is that our amygdalas detect danger where there isn't. Exaggerated fears and false alarms that override our thoughts and mobilize our bodies for self-protection. And if we aren't self-aware, this can lead to responses that include freezing up, hiding, or avoiding situations that might actually be useful. You would think that the minds of humans and the brains that have made us the dominant species on the planet would be immune to such absurdities. And if you have someone that's followed the lectures of clinical psychologist Dr. Jordan Peterson, you might know that where the social dynamics of the modern world have changed drastically and dramatically, we are still natural beings with brain chemistry and brain software that lead us to evaluate our place in the world with not only a focus on survival, but also on such things as sexual selection and the way we perceive our level of dominance in social hierarchies. Imagine for a moment you're in a larger group, perhaps at a party, and rather than being present and enjoying the experience, you might find yourself caught in your head and trying to read the minds of others and what they might think of you. And rather than being open and talking with people and asking questions and gathering the information that might actually be able to help you answer those questions, we instead choose to get stuck in our own thoughts and in how we feel about ourselves and not check in with the real world. Dr. Jordan Peterson advises that in these situations, we just can't decide to stop thinking. It's a battle we aren't going to win. Instead, we need to be proactive and shift our focus to carefully observing others. And when you think about it, it's very acceptable to be having one-on-one conversations and much easier. And what's important here is that an outward focus keeps us observing and listening and shifts our attention away from any anxious thoughts and negative self-talk. This will help you develop awareness and a mindset where you will choose to learn from what other people show and tell you, what you see, hear, observe, what's true and real. Strictly speaking, it isn't even other people's judgments that we fear, but our own emotional reactions to those judgments, whether they're imaginary or not. And at the very essence, what we are afraid of is the private, conscious experience of feeling embarrassed, ashamed, guilty, disgraced, rejected, or humiliated. The good news is those fears and thoughts are often unnecessary, and we believe in you to develop the skills that enable you to make those distinctions. And to extend beyond the advice I shared from Jordan Peterson, the best treatments are behavioural. And what's important is you take small, courageous, proactive steps each day until you don't need the courage anymore, and those actions become a habit. And you don't have to start in the deep end of the pool. You can simply begin by saying hello to a neighbour or someone you see regularly without being greeted first. Or maybe even just asking a shop assistant where you might find something in a store. Asking a stranger for directions. And perhaps even responding to a simple question with a brief answer if you have one. And if taking any of those actions seem trivial to you, perhaps take a moment to self-reflect and think about whether you do these things consistently and effortlessly throughout each day. And if you really want to level up, choose a single action and commit to not missing any opportunity throughout a day to take that action. Or you can go further and have a serious think about who you want to show up as in the world each day, and taking the time to write down a list of those actions that embody your preferred self. And focus on one of those actions, however small it may seem, until it is a habit. If you aren't ready to take actions on the suggestions above, that's okay too. Remember, our unconscious is always trying to protect us from dangers that aren't often real. And most of the time, what it is really protecting us from is our fragile sense of self. And if you are watching this video, I know there is a part of you that is so much more than your fears and limiting beliefs. And you are ready to walk through the door to change and possibility. And if you are like me, maybe you often feel that your goals and the actions you take aren't written on the same page. And this is where mindfulness and self-hypnosis can really help. Hypnosis is simply a process that will help you to relax and find calm, and provides a safe theatre for visualization and rehearsal, in which you can discover the differences between your thoughts, emotions, and the reality they are supposed to represent faithfully, but often don't. The most important thing about hypnosis, NLP techniques, and exercises is practice. The more frequently and consistently, the better. We regularly create new hypnosis videos, including ones that help you get over social phobia and easily overcome social anxiety. So make sure you subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on the next video. And if you are ready to make change, make sure you click on one of our most popular social anxiety videos on screen now. And join us as we help you create the amazing life you want.